Scott Pilgrim versus the World movie review. So this is part of my scripted movie review series in which I go back and read a review I wrote years ago on the weblog for whatever that may or may not be worth. In this case, I saw this movie about 10 years ago when it came out. And you may remember that it generated a lot of buzz right before it came out. I remember going to a website, Ain't It Cool News, which, by the way, is a website that seems to have completely fallen off the face of the earth. I think they're still up and running, but nobody talks about them anymore. But they were big at the time. 10 years ago, they were a big website for geek culture. And I've always been a geek myself. So if Ain't It Cool News was excited about something, I started to get excited about something. And they were excited about this movie. I didn't exactly know why at the time. I suppose that it was because Scott Pilgrim versus the World was a popular cult comic. I had never heard of it before, but there's a lot of stuff I haven't heard about. I've since then put two and two together and realized that actually it was the director as much as anything, Edgar Wright, who was the reason that so many geeks were excited about this movie. And again, this goes to me being out of it and not knowing a lot about stuff. I had actually seen Shaun of the Dead before seeing this movie, but I didn't realize that it was the same director. It wasn't until several years later that I actually realized who Edgar Wright was and realized that his body of work was greatly respected by geeks. And I generally like Edgar Wright. I love Shaun of the Dead. Hot Fuzz and World's End I hadn't yet seen at the time, but I've since seen them and come to really enjoy them. So yeah, there was a lot of buzz on geek websites about Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and also it got some fairly good reviews on mainstream sites as well. It was doing quite well on Rotten Tomatoes. So I was quite excited to see this movie and was relatively sure I was going to love it, and was very disappointed with it. Which I say with hesitation because I know everybody else loves this movie. I will say that I've rewatched it a few times on TV and it's grown on me a little bit. If nothing else, I've come to appreciate through rewatching it that because of the quick pace of it and because of all the gags and visuals, it's very eye-catching. It is very easy to rewatch. But yeah, I was disappointed with it when I initially saw it. And I know I'm in the minority here, but I'm going to go through the reasons I was underwhelmed by the movie. First of all, I thought it was kind of a one-note gag. It's a guy's love life, which is presented as if it was a video game, which is clever enough, but you kind of get that joke within the first 10 minutes. And then the whole rest of the movie doesn't really have a lot else to offer. It's just kind of repeating that same joke over and over again. It's also a movie that's trying way too hard to be cool. The quick cuts, the ironic subtitles, the dry, sarcastic conversations, the whole thing just feels like it's really, really trying to be cool. And the thing about being cool is you can't look like you're trying to be cool. Then it's no longer cool. And I thought this movie was trying way too hard. Also, all of the characters, almost all of the characters, were really overdoing the whole hipster thing. The whole dry, sarcastic, I don't have any emotions, hipster thing throughout the whole movie, and I thought that didn't work. I think that could work if you have one character doing it, and then that one character can play off of the other characters. I don't think it can work as well if you have all the characters doing it. You need something to play off of here. And all the characters are doing the dry, sarcastic hipster thing. I just got sick of it. Plus, I didn't really think it was all that funny. There were a couple moments in the movie that got a laugh out of me. But a lot of the rest of the jokes just seemed forced or a little bit stupid, if I'm being honest. But perhaps the biggest reason of all that I couldn't get into this movie is I just was not given a reason to care about any of these characters. I didn't understand what their motivations were. I didn't care about them. I didn't understand why Scott Pilgrim fell in love with Ramona. Ramona was presented here as really having no personality. And I guess he had a mysterious dream about her, and that explains the obsession. But there's no reason why the audience would ever fall in love with her. I certainly was never given a reason to care about her. Throughout the whole movie, I didn't understand why Ramona was more appealing than Scott Pilgrim's other girlfriend, Knives Chow, or vice versa. I mean, the one just seemed just as good as the other to me. I didn't understand why all the ex-boyfriends were fighting Scott. I mean, there was some sort of thing with Ramona's history, but it didn't make any sense. I didn't understand why Knives Chow spent the whole movie being obsessed over Scott Pilgrim. I mean, what was so great about him? And then I didn't understand why she suddenly had a change of heart at the end and let him go. I don't understand why Scott Pilgrim's roommate was on this mission to evict him. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. There was that one girl with the glasses, I forget his name, who really hated Scott Pilgrim. That was her defining characteristic, is she just really hated him. I don't understand where that came from. I could go on and on. None of the characters really seemed to have any reason for doing any of the things that they did. And that caused me to get bored watching it because, as a consequence, I didn't really care what happened to any of them. And then there was this stereotyping going on in this movie, which I'm surprised wasn't more of an issue than it was. I didn't see a lot of other people complaining about this, and you know, maybe that's because it was part of the joke, or people recognized the movie as being in on the joke. I don't know, but I thought it was a little bit, yeah. I mean, so they've got one Chinese character in the movie, and her name is Knives Chow. That's a little bit stereotypical, right? They've got two Japanese twins in the movie, and they're portrayed in like this stereotypical way with these Asian dragons. They've got one Indian character in the movie, and he's got to sing a Bollywood song. The list of stereotypes in this movie, unless you decide to forgive it by saying it's all part of the joke, which maybe is what most people did, seems to me, I don't know. I thought it was troublesome. But I'll throw the question out to you. What did you think about it? Was this something to be concerned about, or was this just all part of the joke? And again, I know I'm in the minority opinion on this. So if you like the movie, tell me why you liked it. Again, upon reviewing, I've seen this movie since then a couple times on TV. I don't think I've watched it from beginning to end since then, but I've seen bits and pieces of it as I was channel flipping through it on the TV. And I can at least appreciate, upon reviewing, that it's perfectly catered to short attention spans. So if I see it on TV, I will pause and watch some of it and feel like I'm being reasonably entertained. But yeah, I didn't love it.